Hello, everyone. My name is Gary Gomes. I'm a Vedic astrologer from New Bedford, Massachusetts. I've been doing these shows for about the past 3 years. I also have a YouTube channel, which I also broadcast these shows, these discussions. And I'm here to talk with you about Vedic astrology, what it means to the world, what it means to your life, what it means to your individual sign placements. So this particular session will start. This is the third time I've tried to record this, and my software seems to be giving me some problems. So we'll see if this one does the trick. And I realize you're not supposed to discuss technical issues, but I think this time I'm kind of like justified in it. This only happened once before, and it was also during a retrograde cycle and a Saturn Mercury conjunction. So what can I say? Okay, all right. So again, my name is Gary Gomes. I've been an astrologer for roughly 30 years. I'm going to be doing an astrological seminar on marriage, on multiple relationship partners, for Sagittatrius astrology. I've done various workshops for Arsha Vidya curriculum, the American College of Vedic Astrology, Kepler College. I've been a teacher at Kepler College. And I am planning on opening my own astrology learning center. And also, I'm in the process of writing a book, first in a series, I hope. And I'm also a past president of the College of the Council of Vedic Astrology, past vice president, and I've gotten various honors from India. I'm also a Swami of the Temple of Kriya Yoga, and I became a Swami in 1995. Also a Reiki master, and I know a bunch of other stuff. So if you like what I'm doing, if you like what I'm broadcasting, please share it. Please like it. Please subscribe. If you haven't subscribed already, please recommend to your friends, because that's part of the monetization process in YouTube. And I know it takes a while to do that. But I'd like to accelerate it just a little bit. So we have a few hundred subscribers already, close to 400 subscribers, but I'm going to need more. And if you can help me out with that, it would be greatly appreciated. All right, so we're going to look at the chart. Again, to contact me, 508-525. Also, just in additional news, I will be setting up a more high-tech or better fidelity version of this in a few months. I've had some delays in getting that done, and that's just the way it is. But I'm planning to actually upgrade this program so you can have better access to it. And so it'll be more fun to look at. So let me go over here and I'll see if I can get the screen working properly. Hold on a second. All right, so we're going to look at the chart for today. Is January 9th, 2022. And that's a long time. Boy, I'll be 70 years old this year. Wow. Okay, so let's see what we can pull up. And we're going to do a now chart. Okay. And it's New Bedford, Massachusetts. Ah, that's interesting. That's interesting. I did that. Oh, all right, so I'm going to share this chart with you. This is one of the things I had problems with before, so I'm going to try this twice. I'm going to share the screen. All right, and I'm going to stop the share and share it again. So, all right, we're back to the screen again. Yay, okay. So hopefully this one won't do any weird things, and I'll have to record it again. All right, so we have Gemini Rising, which is more positive, and this one actually indicates, so the times that I put the charts up before, which indicates the power of electing the right time, I had Saturn in the first house and Rahu in the first house, which are both difficult placements. Now I have a Gemini first house. Lord of the first house is in the 8th house along with Saturn. And the moon is in the 10th house, so this should be good for public consumption. Let's see. The other thing we have right now is we have a lot of planets surrounding the 7th house. We have malefic planets surrounding the 7th house. So this indicates relationships with other countries aren't so good right now. Okay. If we're looking at it as being a mundane chart. And essentially, so relationships between countries aren't that good. We can look at Mars aspecting Jupiter as being the reason an Omicron popped up as a very quickly moving virus. And we had a Sun-Venus conjunction yesterday, a really strong Sun-Venus conjunction yesterday. And you can see right now, the sun is at 25 degrees, 24 minutes, and Venus is at 24 degrees, 2 minutes. Now, the Sun-Venus conjunctions are a phenomenon called, it's a combination called Kazemi, which is taken from Arabic astrology, which indicates a planet's significations get larger or stronger. But also, one of the things it does hurt is it does hurt the significations of the sign in which the planet rules. So this is a bad combination for 5th house luck. It can present relationships which are a lot of work. So you love somebody, but it's a lot of work to love them. And also, it's probably not the best time to enter into new partnerships unless it's something you really, really have tried to initiate for a long time. Something which has been on the back burner for a long, long time, which you're trying to make solid. And it'll also cost you money. Okay, you'll also have to go on foreign trips to make it work. So there is trouble in foreign lands. We have Mars K2 conjunct and aspecting Rahu. So that gives, as I posted to Facebook just recently, Kazakhstan has problems with, and I'm going to keep on doing this just because I don't trust this program. I don't trust. So Kazakhstan it's a real country, folks. Yes, it's not a made-up country for those of you who've seen the Borat movies. And essentially, they're having problems. People are having financial problems because of shortages, and that seems to be the trigger. And it's not even it's something which I find interesting, because economics are usually the trigger for almost any revolution. It's not really people wanting freedom. Wars are fought over that, but economics are usually more the issue over time. So people feel like they're not being treated fairly, or they're not getting what they should, or they're paying too much, or so that would give cause for unrest. And there's actually violence in Kazakhstan right now. In the United States, if we move over to the United States, and like I said, I was predicting this, and actually there have been some violent attacks in other countries as well. But the Sun and Venus, this conjunction, usually means the government is not being sensitive to the people. This is so it's a good combination for spiritual activity or for romantic activity, at least for short-term romantic activity. But it's horrible in terms of people's basic needs being met. And the Saturn Mercury conjunction in the second house from the Sun sort of underscores that. It's communications bad, everything's kind of deadlocked, and people don't know what to do. So this actually pretty accurately reflects the supply chain issues that are happening around the world. It's happening, as I said in the last broadcast, I tried to put forward, it's happening across Europe, across Turkey, and a little bit further east, and in China as well. And in South America as well. So it's not really limited to just the United States, although we tend to look at everything in terms of our backyard. And it isn't just, there was certainly the Keystone pipeline being shut down contributed to it, but there were also other issues that happened over the past year. In particular, there are a couple of problems in the United States. Essentially, there aren't enough enough truckers in the United States. There aren't enough delivery drivers. Economies are being shut down and reopened sporadically, so production can't be maintained. And I think one of the things we're seeing right now is, and it's interesting because we have a real mess, and you can blame whoever you like to blame for it. It's just a planetary combination, and basically with these combinations, everything except speculation is doing pretty poorly. The main thing that is probably going to do well, continue to do well, at least until March, is housing. And I have seen at least one forecast which indicated that housing prices should drop when Rahu enters Aries, which will be at the end of March. But I don't necessarily think there's a recession coming, just because there's so much pent-up demand. It's unlikely, even if interest rates are raised, that it'll cause a recession because people want things too much. So there has to be a point. So for those of you who weren't alive in the 1970s, 1980s, there was a stagflationary economy in the United States, or actually around the world. And what the central banks did was they raised interest rates, but they raised them to incredibly high levels. So right now we're at close to 1% prime rate in the United States. So just so I hope your eyes won't glaze over, but I just want to explain this for a second. And in other countries, to encourage spending after what happened in 2007, economies have essentially kept interest rates very low. Now, so this creates demand. That's what it does. But what happened in the 1970s, 1980s was interest rates were raised to incredibly high levels. So the prime rate was around 14, 15%. My first mortgage was a 12.5% mortgage. So I think one of the things to keep in mind is if it would have to be a dramatic increase in interest rates in order to cause a recession, just given so much pent-up demand. If you have, and again, I'm going to do this, like I said, just because I'm trying to learn from my mistakes. And that Saturn-Mercury conjunction is people want it, they're communicating they want it, but it's not being made available. Now, this is something to watch out for, just be concerned about. This coming week, Mercury goes retrograde. Why is that something to be concerned about? I normally don't see this as being a big problem, but it's going to be going retrograde into a sign which has, in about 2 weeks, Venus will be there. And around April 30th, Venus will go direct. I'm sorry, around January 30th, Venus will go direct. And Mars will enter Sagittarius right around the same time, or a little bit before that. So we'll have Mars, Venus, and Mercury in the same sign. So, and the sun will be in the next sign over. So essentially that's going to be more government in action, because the sun will be with Saturn and they'll start trying to tax more. That's basically what it boils down to. And that's not going to be just the United States. That's going to be around the world. So essentially what's going to happen is you're going to have, especially in the United States, I would say, a lot more lying going on, a lot more dramatics. And the reason I'm saying this is because Mars and Mercury conjunctions create a line combination. They create misrepresentation. Rahu can do it to a certain extent. The U.S. has a Rahu-Mercury conjunction in its chart, and all the news is drama. It's just, I'm not saying that to be negative about the United States, but that's true. It's drama. It's a perpetual thrill ride. That's sort of the way we view the news in this country. And basically, so there's not a lot of sober news, and there's a lot of sarcasm in news, and so it's just sort of, and again, this is U.S. history. This isn't me commenting on the current either fake news or fake news from either side of the political spectrum, or biased news. This is the news media in the United States has always been interested in. The United States is a profit-driven country. It's always been interested in profit, right? So as long as you understand that, then you can take the news for what it is, something which is intended to grab your attention and move on to the next thing really quickly. So there should be a lot of skepticism about news just in general. But basically, it doesn't mean it's inaccurate all the time. It's just intended to be dramatic. So that Sun-Venus combination is sort of like a deaf ear to consumer demands. And that's true not only in the United States, it's true around the world. And there's a blockage. Now, the good thing that's coming up is that Mars moving into this sign, although it'll cause a few conflicts and some more attempts at overthrowing governments, I don't think it'll develop into an all-out war. And number two, it'll take pressure off Jupiter in order to develop, and it'll stop developing all these weird variants. There was a Delta Omicron variant, which essentially popped up today. I don't know where it is, but that's interesting. But the sooner we can get Mars out of this sign, the better, because it thinks of devious combinations as for diseases to fight. Jupiter's inside of Meshach. You'll have a lot of people working all at once on getting people cured and getting people well. So that's a good combination. And you'll actually see a lot of cures and a lot of preventives coming out of in the fight against COVID over the next couple of months. So that's the best news. A lot of the inflationary pressure, I don't think, is going to ease up for about another year or so. To be true, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with people. And so it won't be really until 2023 we see a cooling down. Maybe even beyond that because of the dasha the United States is in. Supplies will be a little bit better after June of this year. And that's mainly because of Rahu scampering back into Aries, and also because of let's see now, and also because of this Kala Sarpa Yoga in the chart being over and done with. So it'll take a few months. You know, it's not something which is going to hurt anybody, but a lot of things will be delayed, especially communicationally. And as a matter of fact, between roughly January 15th and early February, a lot of things that seemed like they were moving along well will just kind of grind to a halt. And like I said, just be careful what you listen to in terms of politics, because there'll be a lot of incitement to panic on both sides of the political spectrum. There's no need to panic. I think one of the things that bothers me is that nobody's willing to talk with one another, at least not in a civil tone. And so there'll always be political differences. That's not what I'm saying, but there's not a lot of collective decision making being done. That'll probably start to correct itself a little bit around June of this year, when Jupiter's more fully into Pisces. But I think one of the things you have to remember is, at least from the U.S. chart, and the U.S. chart really affects the world, to be quite honest, is, and again, it's not because we're so great, it's because of the economic impact we have on the world. And the U.S. is in a Rahu Mahadasha, so it's essentially, for the next 10 years or so, going to be a little bit rudderless. And there'll be shifts in extreme actions and a lot of shuffling and reshaping, both on the left and the right. So at the conclusion, we'll come out as a stronger country, a more prosperous country, but it's going to be a long haul. The other thing to keep in mind, it'll be interesting though, so there's always that. So let's look at the chart for the world. So we have a variety of combinations here. Mars is close to Hawaii, so that's not really good for Hawaii. But again, all we can really expect to see from that is an increase in violence, unexpected violence. Venus and the Sun are in the middle of the ocean, so they're not really going to attract a lot of attention. Although they may cause some governmental problems in Canada, in Western Canada. Rahu is passing over Idaho, through New Mexico, into Mexico, and down into the tip of Argentina. So that'll cause some panic or some what I would call sensationalistic news to occur, and also some very significant supply chain issues, especially in New Mexico and throughout Colorado and Idaho. And that will also affect parts of Texas, going into Texas a little bit. Also, we have a descending Mars line running through Louisiana and pretty much the center of the country. So those states are going to be kind of violence prone, especially around Louisiana and Alabama, at least from this chart. The government's going to be largely missing in action over the next few months, over the next month or so, excuse me, not the next few months, the next month or so. And Venus is hitting the tip of Brazil, so there'll be some kind of, not governmental overthrow, but some sort of dissatisfaction or some kind of civil unrest and anxiety in Brazil. And Mars is also running through central, down close to Cuba and down through Bolivia and into Colombia and Uruguay and Paraguay and Argentina. So those are going to be hot spots. In terms of, looks like the Canary Islands are affected, and the Azores to a certain extent. Not the Canaries, excuse me, the Cape Verde Islands. And I think you're also going to see, actually, Portugal looks like it's in pretty good shape. It has a Jupiter line running through it. There'll be a spread of the disease, but it'll be a mild spread. Rahu is passing through England and Spain and Libya. And there's also a descending Saturn line close to that, but it's really out in the middle of the ocean, so it's really not going to have that much of an effect. But these parts of the world, France, Spain, Portugal, will be a little bit prone to panic. Portugal will actually respond the best. I'm not saying that because I'm Portuguese, that's what the astrology is saying. We have a Mars line running through Central Europe, and Scandinavia, so we can expect some discord and increased violence around Italy and Algeria. No real lines running through Turkey, so I know the economy is in rough shape there already, so they'll be left alone largely. Turkey's rising sign is helps it out a little bit at this particular time, but the economy is in rough shape. And also, at least from the chart, but there's no really active active problems there, although the chart I looked at this morning did indicate Saturn was passing through Istanbul, so that does indicate some downturns in the economy. And finally, if we look over here, not finally, but as we look over here, we see a Venus Sun line passing through Iran and through Moscow. And I think that does indicate some displeasure with the government, some attempts to change the government. I don't think you're going to see an overthrow of Moscow anytime soon, but certainly some dissatisfaction. And there's a moon line over here. And I don't think the Kazakhstani government will be changed, but I think it's in danger. Um, but it'll be really repressive. The reaction of the government to the protesters is going to be really repressive and they're going to control communications coming in and out of the country. India is also going to have some problems on the western coast in terms of supplies. And this isn't really like high level astrology. This has pretty obviously been in the news, and so Delhi and Bombay are going to be affected pretty intensely. There's a Rahu line passing through China. China is going to panic again a little bit about the virus, and you'll probably see some civil unrest in China, although we probably won't hear about it. Jupiter's passing through Southeast Asia around Myanmar, and it's an overlap with the Rahu line here. So I think what you're going to see in that part of the world is essentially, let me just do this again. Again, it's something I'm just trying to avoid doing this a fourth time. And Rahu's passing over Southeast Asia and China, and there's a Mars line close to the edge of eastern China, and is heading into North Korea, and that makes me a little bit worried about North Korea in terms of their supplies and whether or not they're going to do something stupid. But it looks like their problem is more with China than it is with South Korea. And let's see now. And we also have a moon line hitting through Japan. Japan is going to have some issues with water, possible flooding, and that's true also of New Guinea and parts of Australia, which is unusual. Saturn and Mercury are passing over Western Australia. That's not necessarily over Eastern Australia. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm getting my directions confused. And that Mercury-Saturn line does indicate supply chain problems, severe supply chain problems. And they'll get a little bit better over the next, probably in February, the supply chain issues will get a little bit better, but they'll become a problem again in March. And it really won't be until April until we'll start to see an improvement in supply chain matters. There's, let me just see now, a Jupiter line passing over New Zealand, but also a Rahu line. So that to me indicates a combination of panic, but also spread of disease. But again, New Zealand has been largely blessed in this pandemic, and for a variety of geographical reasons, it's been in relatively safe position, but they might be experiencing some spread. So if we're going to look at the chart, the areas that I'm worried about are essentially, let me see, let me get that out of there. Sorry about that, folks. Yeah, stop the share again and restart it. The areas that I'm concerned about are really close to the Rocky Mountain states, all the way down to New Mexico. And hold on one second. All right, 1 second. So we're going to go back to the screen share again. I had an interruption. My apologies. So the areas I'm a little concerned about. I've already discussed fairly strongly. I'm a little concerned about China, mainly because of and um and England, mainly because I don't like to see Rahu lines because they cause panic. Um, England and Spain and all the way down the west coast. But governmental activity looks like Brazil, um, the Middle East, and Iran, Russia, and excuse me, and parts of Australia. It looks like there's going to be governmental, or there are going to be governmental problems. So, and again, like I said, just be really, really, God, be really careful what you believe. Mars is going into Mula Nakshatra, which is a violent nakshatra, fairly soon, within about a week or so. So the tendency for violence will actually go up, not go down. So it's just, so this isn't to scare anybody. This is just to make people aware of that. So I'm going to stop the share again. Going to come back on again. I know I'm doing this a lot today, but I'm trying to make sure I get it right and I'm going to switch off this screen. So let's look at the individual signs in the chart. I need to check something just to make sure my time is right. Excuse me. Okay. So I have about 4 minutes to play with. Okay. All right. So we have the rising sign is Gemini, as I said before, but we have Aries. Aries has some problems with self-confidence, some problems with um, wondering about people trying to box in or confine it. Work is very strong in this chart, but there is a feeling, at least from a relationship partners, of being taken advantage of or being hurt. There's not enough money for Aries, but career-wise, Aries is doing good, and actually, in terms of financial gains, it's not doing that badly. But the money will still not seem like enough to it. Rahu is in the first house in Taurus. Taurus rising, the first house lord is in the 8th house, and you're going to see this in all 3 of the charts. So essentially, or all 3 of the first signs. So the first house lord of Rahu of Taurus is Venus. It's in the 8th house in Sagittarius. There'll be a lot of unrealistic expectations about money for the sign. Saturn's in the 9th house. Career-wise, is still doing good. He'll have some small gains this week, and but again, some relationship issues pop up. More prone to more prone to fighting, and more prone to aggressive action. A lot of relationships will be tested over the next 3 months. A lot of people with Taurus suns. Gemini has Sun and Venus in the 7th house. It's good for alliances, but unfortunately, with Venus being combust, and it's a lucky sign for this, relationship partners will be a little bit taxing or a little bit difficult to deal with, unfortunately. So when maybe you have a combination like that, there'll be a lot of effort put forward from relationship partners, but oh my gosh, it'll seem like a lot of work. Career-wise, again, this sign isn't doing badly at all. The Lord of the First is in the 8th house, so again, they'll feel like they're sort of like stuck in place for a little while, at least for a couple of months. In a couple of months, they'll feel really liberated and really feel like they're moving forward, especially in higher education matters. And there may be a change in their overall work structure as well over the next couple of months. So I think you'll see this sign start to get more credit, more glory, but it'll take a little while. For Cancer, Cancer's Lord is in the 9th house over here in Pisces, so that's actually pretty good. The Ushura, so this sign has relationships on its mind. That's what that UL means. And it's also got money as a focal point. So for this sign, it'll stick in relationship patterns, but relationship partners won't be doing that well, at least for another couple of months. And this Saturn Mercury conjunction, the relationship partner will seem a little bossy or a little bit difficult to deal with, maybe a little bit older. The other thing to keep in mind is that children will be a little bit cranky or difficult to control, and they'll have to watch out for health issues. For Jupiter in the 8th, there could be potential windfalls of cash. Sun rules Leo. Leo's Lord is in the 6th house, so there'll be a lot of concern about illnesses in this chart, and that seems to be a theme this week. Oh, by the way, I'll cover the Makara Sankranti, which is considered the ultimate predictive chart for mundane affairs next week. So that's that to look forward to. But Leo rising has Jupiter in the 7th house. It's pretty good for financial growth. It's very good for engaging in new opportunities relationship-wise. They'll have plenty of options and new friendships also from the chart. But I think from this chart, there's a lot of uncomfortableness at home. Love affairs seem to be a little bit strained or a little bit difficult. And so is creativity. And Saturn and Mercury, again, we're talking about illness to relationship partners. Moon is in the 8th house. That's not a bad combination, but basically, from the chart, it does tend to make this partner seem a little bit reclusive or uncommunicative. And Rahu's in the 10th house, good for career. So Leo, suns, risings, moons will get good career boosts. Virgo has Ketu and Mars in the 3rd house, Venus and Sun in the 4th house, and Saturn and Mercury in the 5th house. So those 3 houses are actually pretty well placed for the sign. Relationship life and home life will seem very important to the sign. There's a lot of focus on home life and wife for this sign, and also on luck. The Mars K2 conjunction will give it more courage than normal. Saturn in the 5th house, along with Mercury, is a little bit difficult for children. Children will seem disappointed, or lovers will seem a little bit disappointed or a little bit worried. This will give a change of romantic interest, though, as well. So this sign's been focused on one individual. It'll change its focus a little bit. and it may even give shift or a new relationship partner, but it's really a weak combination. It's not really something that I would put the bank on. Also, relationship partners may turn hostile because of the Lord of the seventh house going into the sixth. In terms of luck, basically, luck is good at work. Career life is good. For Libra rising, Libra has Mars K2 in the second house, has to be careful what it says. There are signs that it could be cut off in communication. And Venus and Sun, again, the Lord of the first house is in conjunction with the Sun, so there'll be a lot more focus on friends, a lot more thoughts about friends, a lot more focus on gains. Saturn and Mercury are in the fourth house without delay. These are delays in construction activities, delays in education. Jupiter's in the fifth house. It will bring more relationship opportunities to the sign, although they'll be really with difficult people or people who are tough to understand, people who are a little bit erratic. Rahu's in the eighth house, and I'll give unexpected gains, but gains with a cost. For Scorpio rising, Scorpio is essentially very it's had a lot of problems over the past year, to be honest. It's there have been relationship issues, although its energy level is high. There have been relationship issues, health issues, and relationship partners seem to be a little bit moody or difficult to understand. Venus, Sun and Venus are in the second house. It kind of hurts a person's appetite. Saturn and Mercury are in the third house. There's kind of a pessimism about the future. Aspecting the moon in the fifth house, so children will be a little bit of a disappointment to the sign. Jupiter's in the fourth house, so actually it does indicate that home life will actually get better. There'll be more attention from the spouse. And also, career-wise, not a lot happening career-wise, except for career life seems to be slow or a bit difficult. For Sagittarius, Sagittarius has Sun and Venus in the first house, so the sign will seem to be very attractive, very presentable. Saturn and Mercury will be in the second house, so this indicates a slow increase in income. Jupiter's in the third house. The sign is trying very hard not to hurt or offend anybody. And Moon is in the fourth house, so I think whenever you see a combination like that, it indicates a change in home life or a change in conditions around the home. Rahu's in the sixth, so again, anxiety over health. This is not a new theme. A lot of the charts are seeing this. And in terms of relationship life and career life, they're just kind of stagnant. There'll be a feeling they're making progress in about 3 weeks, and then about 3 weeks after that, they'll feel like they're back in the same stalled state for about another month. For Capricorn, Capricorn has a lot of authority this month. It's probably the best placed of all the signs, but it does have some problem. And the eighth house Lord is placed in the 12th house, so that means no permanent enemies. But it does have a problem with Venus, and the Venus is the luckiest sign for this rising sign. So this will give problems with children. Children will have losses, and career will seem to be stymied or stuck. And Jupiter in the second house, so it brings more money into this sign. Moon is in the third house, so again, there's that desire not to offend or not to upset people. And Rahu sits in 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth house, so difficult to please children. Career-wise, this sign looks okay, except for that Venus, where it'll feel kind of hidden away or kind of confined. And for Aquarius, Jupiter's placed in Aquarius in the first house, and there will be some gains of money, some short-term gains of money for this sign. Some frustration with construction projects or with educational activities. In terms of work life, basically a good work life. They'll be doing a lot of stuff. They'll be busy, but there'll be some blocks or some missed deadlines, unfortunately. And Sun, Venus are together in the 11th house. So that's actually good for financial gains for the sign. It means that it'll be attracting the attention romantically of people who have a lot of money, but who aren't necessarily nice people. So they won't necessarily be happy with those individuals. Saturn and Mercury are in the 12th house. Again, a lot of signs are feeling like they're blocked or they're losing things. And this one indicates problem with communication with children. And Saturn, as Lord of the first house, indicates problems with self-confidence for this sign. For Pisces, Pisces is not in bad shape. Jupiter in the 12th house is actually a good sign placement. It's not really a horrible one. But the moon in the first house as Lord of the fifth is actually pretty good as well. Saturn aspects the moon though, so this particular sign placement will actually do well in terms of public recognition. Rahu's in the third house, so there'll be some greed for recognition or attention. And the fourth lord, Mercury, is in the 11th house, so there'll be new gains of friends or friends from the past will show up. As a matter of fact, that's what you should expect to see over the next few months is a lot of friends from the past, just in general, popping up. A lot of people you had good acquaintances with or good fortune with in the past, or maybe even share some bad times with. The other thing is, if we go to this sign over here, Saturn, there's a tendency for this sign to overindulge this month, though, so just be careful about that. Jupiter in Aquarius is not the best sign for alcohol consumption or any kind of mind-altering substance. So just be careful you don't overindulge in that over the next few months, actually. Mars aspects Jupiter creates a Raj Yoga of sorts for this chart. So that's actually good for career life, but career life will require some travel or some sacrifice. Okay. So the chart overall for a lot of signs doesn't look that great. We're experiencing a period of some retrogrades. Retrogrades are really not something to be afraid of. I'm more concerned about the planetary combinations coming up in a couple of weeks than I am about what's happening right now. And I am a bit concerned about people making relationship decisions over the next couple of months. Any relationship I'm in, I would play it nice and slow over the next couple of months. There's a lot of passion in the chart right now because Venus and Mars are coming together, at least metaphorically. And I think whenever that happens, there's more interest in connecting with people or getting involved physically with people. But it's actually kind of a dangerous combination because right after that connection occurs, it's going to get hit with a lot of roadblocks or a lot of delays. So I'd encourage people to be really, really cautious about that. Overall, the next 3 months will prove challenging for the United States and the world, not impossible to deal with. If you have any, it's a good time for writing, it's a good time for creative work, it's a good time for self-reflection. Don't be upset by what you see out in the world. Try to understand it, try to put it into a more detached perspective. Try not to get upset because if you get upset, you don't think logically, you don't think clearly, you don't think like a rational human being. And Um, no matter what side you're on politically, I want you to think like a rational human being. I don't, I mean, you can get angry, but you don't hit the first person you see, right? You can get angry, but you don't go out and riot, no matter which side of the spectrum you're on. So, and I'm looking at this, and I'm reminded how close we are to the January 6th um, um, event, and the anniversary of the January 6th event. And what we're seeing right now, I'm just going to say this flat out. Some people see it as an exercise in democracy. Some people see it as a political exercise. I tend to see it as an exercise in theater. And the reason I'm saying that is because of the planetary involvements. So there are legitimate reasons to investigate this. I think what we're seeing right now is really theater, and is theater on both sides. So that's what I'm saying. Just look at the facts. Try to gather facts from both sides and make a decision based on that. If you think I'm insane, that's perfectly okay with me. That doesn't bother me one bit. But I think one thing we haven't done very much is listen to each other over the past few years. So I think that's one of the most revolutionary things you can do right now. Okay. All right. Thanks a lot. I love you all. And I want to say blessings to everyone and namaste. Thank you. And I hope this recording worked. See you later.